Atmosphere! Atmosphere has always been an important aspect of video games to me. In video games, the number one thing will always be gameplay. Frequently following that is the story. But how do you advance the story? How do you make it feel better? Well, the answer is use other key features like visuals and music to create an atmosphere that helps show the player the tone you're going for. Not only does it put the player in the proper mood, but it also helps your tones strike home harder. Atmosphere is easy to overlook, and sometimes it doesn't work out the way it's intended, but it's always there. You might not notice it, but somewhere deep inside, you're appreciating the tone of the game more by the subconscious feelings that atmosphere brings. Now, while I feel there's a ton of games that utilize atmosphere very well, I'm gonna be using a few of my favorites to help paint a picture as to what this mixture of audio and visuals can really do. Who asked me to make this video, you ask? Nobody. I'm bored and had free time, so I'm forcing this on you. Now, let's take a second to talk about an important thing to bring out of people when playing video games. Well, to be honest, it's not just video games, it's really all forms of media that strive to bring out emotion. Humans are naturally kind of emotional beings, and that's pretty sick. So when a game is telling a story, it's important to bring out certain emotions so the scenes become more impactful and memorable. Some games do this by creating action between characters, so the visual portion will be more so the characters speaking to each other and responding through actual movement, where the audio portion will be the voice actors' voices and the lines delivered, which creates an atmosphere, but normally isn't what people refer to when they say atmospheric games. So instead, we're going to look towards games that have few or no spoken lines and choose instead to convey that sense of atmosphere through their music and visuals alone. Now, a game I've always wanted to talk about because I'm just a goon who enjoys the series is Metroid Prime. This series has always been good with atmosphere ever since back to the SNES days with Super Metroid, but the Prime series takes it to a whole new level when showing off their dying and isolated worlds. Metroid has always been a series that relies on atmosphere to show emotion over spoken dialogue. Well, except for Metroid Fusion and Metroid Other M, but I don't want to remember Other M, so here we are. Now, there's many examples of atmosphere in the Metroid series, but one I really want to show you today is Torvus Bog, a swamp-like zone in Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. In Metroid Prime 2, Samus is exploring a dying world that's lost most of its native inhabitants to a long war. The population is dwindling and the structures and locations they created are falling to ruin. This game always seeks to give off this feeling that you're alone on this journey, which is remnants of an old society to guide you through these zones. Torvus Bog as a zone is supposed to be an old temple of the Luminous society that's been reclaimed by the wilderness and now has become a swamp filled with wildlife. The visuals of murky water and plants overtaking the metallic structures creates this odd melancholic feeling from the destruction and ruin of civilization, juxtaposed with a hopeful feeling of renewed nature. The music of the area drives this feeling home with this almost sad-sounding beginning, like the Luminoth Temple is crying out in a final whimper before shifting to the calming tune of wildlife thriving. For a couple more recent examples, I'll start by looking at Demon's Souls the Remake. There's a common idea on the internet that gets parroted a lot that graphics mean nothing in terms of gameplay, which I do agree is true, but I also can't deny that great visuals can lead to incredible atmosphere, and Demon's Souls is an example of that. Whether it's the feeling of doom and dread that the Tower of Latria brings, with its imprisoned inhabitants just trapped in these confines, dimly lit and broken, stuffed inside this cramped building with no space to move, while lightning and clouds smother the region, making you feel like there's no way to escape. Or if it's the somber feeling of society brought to its knees in a matter of hours of Boletaria, the ruined kingdom, overgrown with shrubbery from lack of care as all its residents become soul-starved from an invasion so quick and unprepared for that you can still see the moldy remains of food that never got a chance to be eaten during the abrupt attack. Without uttering a single word, just from visuals alone, these areas are able to convey the emotions of the inhabitants that lived there once, and show the player the history of things that happen at the locations. Another recent example can be found in the incredibly atmospheric game Little Nightmares 2. While the game seeks to primarily go for an atmosphere of horror, there's a specific moment that stuck out to me, as it created a feeling that wasn't quite fear or dread. It gave me a different feeling from the atmosphere that it was embodying. As the titular character enters the decrepit school location, they waltz straight into a class that's currently in progress. While the villain of this location has quite the horrific design, I won't lie, I was left with a completely different feeling after entering this room. The mood of the entire situation is oppressive. You feel a complete lack of power, not just from like the obvious nature of power the villain possesses by simply being able to defeat you by catching you, but also from the visuals and audio cues the room portrays. The teacher is towering over not only you, but every other student in the classroom. The only sound that can be heard is every action she makes, from writing on the chalkboard, to walking across the room loudly, to smacking her ruler on students' desks. She exerts power over the audio and visuals, drawing all attention to her and making her seem like a smothering force. You feel oppressed, to the point that aside from simple gameplay mechanics, your brain desperately wants you to escape this situation. But we've talked about visuals making your brain go wild and shooting emotions at you, so let's look at something different. Subnautica, an underwater survival game. This game hits you with quite a few emotions right off the bat. From the panicking music at the beginning, which serves to get your brain ready to quickly stop the fires and save yourself, to the calming and wondrous visuals and sounds to make you feel that awesome urge to explore the waters around you. But this game is also capable of using its atmosphere to hit you with something different. The panic before in the burning pod was easy, a simple thing to do. It's just some visuals you'd normally associate with danger, like fire and smoke surrounding you. But then this game does something special. While hitting you with all these crazy visuals of the underwater world, you reach a point where the visuals that were used to convey all these emotions vanish. There's nothing in front of you but open nothingness, and the oddest thing happens. You begin to feel uneasy. Your brain is suddenly worried. And then, the slightest of distant sounds. And at that moment, your brain is screaming out one phrase at you: get away. I find this example of creating atmosphere fascinating because it's a way to convey this emotion of fear and desperate survival without ever showing you anything. The lack of visuals instead of the visuals themselves serve as the catalyst for the production of emotions, and honestly, it's marvelous. Video games are such an impressive art form, and the creative ways they make us feel is the biggest reason I keep coming back to play incredible games like these. So, I suppose at the end you're wondering what the point of this video was.